Hi, everyone who has joined us here. Debra, Simmons, and I are just going to have a nice conversation about relationships, really. And this just stemmed from us. We've been having some weekly chats, and they've been getting deeper and deeper every week. And we kind of just thought, wow, it'd be kind of cool to share with other people and, do something like this publicly. And Debra, say hi.
Hello, welcome everybody. It's nice to see a few people here. Some people I recognise and some people I've never met before. So thank you for joining us.
Same here. Before we get started talking, part of why I even thought about doing this, because you were talking to me about you're doing a little program about relationships, right? You want to just give a quick plug for that, and then we'll just chat.
Yeah, cool. So it's starting on Monday, and it's a 90-day program. And basically, when I came across the principles and when I was starting to look in this direction, what I found really helpful was to kind of keep being reminded, because this is very much a very simple conversation, a very simple understanding, but it seemed every time I kind of got back into my life, I would just forget what I learned, and it was just interesting to just kind of just be gently pointed back in that direction. So the program is 90 days, and for every day for 90 days I send out an email with just some kind of gentle reminder about the direction that we're looking in here. And sometimes it's more than others, sometimes it's a few words, sometimes it's a PDF, a whole thing to do. But I've done similar programs. This will be the third time I've done a program like this, and I just find people really like the whole just staying in the conversation for 90 days. It just seems to work somehow, and yeah, I really, really, really enjoy doing it for me. So this one, it's particularly around relationships, because that seems, for me personally, that was where the biggest changes occurred for me as I started to understand the principles. And it's definitely a place where I see the principles more deeply myself. So it's, definitely looking at principles understanding, but just from the perspective of relationships. So if anybody's interested in that, I will put a link from my website afterwards. I'll put a link where this event was on Facebook. I'll put a link there if you are interested and want to go and have a look and want to join in. And I know a couple of people on here are already going to be doing that with me from Monday. So
cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I mean, that's a good starting point really for what we were going to sort of be talking about, because I know you and I both see relationships are sort of the key to everything, right, in life, because we think of relationships like our husbands and partners and friends maybe, but it's so much more. It's everything in life, isn't it? Relationship.
Yeah, it kind of started to, I think something I never really thought about and never realised before I came across the principles was how I related to myself, even how important knowing who I was and knowing myself more deeply. And I think as I started to understand the principles and look in that direction, it introduced me to me. It kind of made me realise more who I am. And from realising who I am, when I could step into being me and truly being me more and more and more, that made every other relationship I was in just blossom. And like you say, whether that was a relationship with a friend, even whether it was just somebody that I might just have, like somebody over a counter at a shop that you might only have an encounter with for a few seconds. It just seemed to me, the more that I knew who I was more deeply and had a good related to myself and to my own thinking and my own experience of life, as I related to that differently, everything else started to pan out much more softly somehow, much more easily. And from that place, all of the relationships seem to be better. And it does feel to me like life is just all about every relationship we are in, whether it is with our children, our friends, our significant other, and it all comes from, how we relate to ourselves seems to be the key bit at first. that was my personal experience. I don't know.
Yeah. How I'm curious because I don't know if we've talked about it before. Like, what did you see for yourself? You know, that changed everything. Like, how did what was it you saw, or what was there a certain insight you had, or what did you see that really changed things?
I think the main thing is something that I say a lot was very much about bringing stuff back to me. That was the words that made sense to me. I saw something in that. I can't even remember who I heard say that, but it was like, bring it back to you. And I very much kind of saw that my own experience, everything I experienced, because my experience is personal to me and coming through me, seeing that, I think it was that really changed things. I kind of thought, oh, this is to do with me. Because before, if I used to feel upset or feel hurt or feel anything like that, it really, really looks to me. And I'm not saying it doesn't sometimes still look to me like it's to do with other people. But when it looked as if it was to do with other people before, that was just, for me, just a truth. It was just to do with them. It wasn't me. It was something somebody else was doing that was causing me to feel this way. And I think kind of having this insight that actually I am always somehow involved with that. However, whatever it looks like, it's always coming from me, and I'm always involved with the way that, how I feel when other people do things. I'm always involved. It's always to do with me. And that was huge when I suddenly kind of saw that, oh, this is actually something to do with me. This isn't something that is just coming at me from outside, that it's just happening to me, that I am nothing to do with. Actually, I have a role to play in this, and it is to do with me. And it was huge to kind of see that no matter what was going on, no matter what was happening, actually there was something it was almost like it opened up a choice for me about how to feel. Whereas before, if it looked to me like someone had upset me, it just looked like I was going to be upset because they'd done something, and that was how it was. And that's what happened when people did that.
Yeah, right. And that's so like exactly what everybody, it seems like around us, that's just like your typical, that's the way we're brought up, right? Where,
Yeah.
We're like just these victims going around in life, and things are happening to us, and you hear it in conversations with people around you. She did this to me, he did this to me, they did that, and it sounds like they feel like they have nothing they can do about it. It's interesting, and it's interesting how when you start to see it, like I know for myself too, when I first learned about the the 3 principles, understanding, thinking that, oh, my husband could use this, my daughter could use this, my mother could use this, but I'm good,
Yeah.
I'm good. But man, if they knew this stuff, boy, would it help. And it wasn't until the same as like what you say, when I suddenly realized, oh, I actually played a part in all these things that have happened to me, over the years, like to see that. But that it takes, I think I feel like it takes courage, or it takes something to really get us to look at ourselves that way. And I think that's why this is hard for a lot of people. I know when I try to explain it to other people, they don't want to give up that victim status. Do you find that as well?
I definitely think there's something there about the courage, because one of the first insights that I had was, I'm in a really, really lovely relationship now, but in the early days of this relationship, before this, I'd actually broken up. My marriage had broken up, and I'd been married for 20 years, and it was not a healthy relationship at all. Me and a couple of my children ended up in a women's refuge, so it was not a healthy relationship. And that relationship had broken down, and I was on my own, and then I got into another relationship. And because my experience of relationships had been very much around manipulation, and I had been, both a victim and a manipulator, because that was kind of the dynamics in that relationship. And I found myself in this new relationship, and one particular night I was being particularly manipulative. I wanted something from this person and I was manipulating him. And I remember as we had a huge row, and he went home and I was left there, and I was actually in my bedroom, and I have a huge mirror in my bedroom, and I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and thought, I don't like you. I really don't like you. I don't like this behaviour, and I don't want it to continue. Could you still hear me then?
Yep.
Good. And it literally was a decision in that moment. I kind of decided that I wasn't going to be that person anymore. And I had to admit to myself that my behaviour and the way that I was carrying on and the way that I was conducting myself in that relationship was not good and was not nice. And I think sometimes looking at yourself, when we've been told that we're a victim, and when our society, and we've been brought up to believe that we are a victim of things that we can't actually look at ourselves and make a decision to actually do something different. But I'd started to understand the principles. I'd come across them and I'd started to see them, and I'd started to see that actually I could change this. I could, make different decisions. And literally looking at myself in that moment and seeing the way that I was behaving and not like it. But it did take some courage to admit that, even to myself.
Right, because for me as well, it's sometimes the other people's behavior is so overtly what people might deem as bad or wrong, and I don't know if it was the same with you, but for me it would be more maybe passive aggressive, or just saying things like you say, maybe manipulative without really meaning to be or something. So it's easy to justify in our own minds how it's them, not us, because they're overtly being, maybe more what would be considered nasty than just having said a few words that somehow have more meaning to them than we might admit to, or something like that. I don't know if that's a similar experience to what you're talking about. Did you hear me all right?
I lost a bit of connection then. I don't know if it's my end or your end. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway.
No, I lost the last little bit of that. I heard you at the beginning, but then I lost what you kind of said.
Yeah, mostly I've got airplanes flying.
I'm not sure if it's my internet connection or yours.
I don't know. Can you hear me now? Okay. Can you hear me? Are you stuck? Your picture's not moving. Jeff's saying he can hear me. So I think
I'm going to put a light on in here.
Yeah, I think it's coming from your end.
Oh, I thought I'd just put the light on because it's gone really dark.
All right. I think you're back now, but I think oh, now you're stuck again. This could be trouble. Well, while Debra's stuck, does she look stuck to everybody else?
Yep.
Thanks, Jeff. Oh, wait, I think she's back.
Oh, hello.
I think you're back, Debra.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will quit. I don't remember. I think what I was saying before was just more.
I don't know whether you.
Go on.
I don't know whether you can hear me, but it keeps kind of coming in and out. I don't know whether it's me that's going in and out or whether it's your is it me? Do you
It's
keep
you because the other people are saying that mine was okay. So yeah, could be a problem for continuing. If it keeps doing it, we may have to reschedule, which is funny because we've had so many chats and not had any trouble like this. In the meantime, while Debra looks to be frozen, does anyone have any thing to add or mention while we'll see if her connection comes better? Jeff, I see you're unmuted. No? Jeff?
No. Jill, you know I'll talk to you anytime you want.
Yeah. Yeah, Debra looks totally frozen to me right now. Which is unfortunate. I'm trying to think if I have anything wise to just say, okay, she just left the meeting, so maybe she'll come back with a better connection. Does anyone have anything to say? I can't believe I've got helicopters going around here again. A few weeks ago, we had a lightweight helicopter fall into our reservoir here, and then so the news helicopters were circling. I hope there's nothing else like that going on. Debra, are you back? Just saw her join. Debra? Can't hear you if you are on. Oh, wait, she's going to be muted. No, she's not muted. No, still can't hear. That's a bummer. I feel like I can't just talk about it by myself. Debra. Sorry, guys. Debra, I don't know if you're trying to talk, but we can't hear you and you are not muted. So, anyone have a question about relationships? I can answer questions, but I don't feel like I have something to just...
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, I'm Deb's niece, Becky.
Oh, hi.
Hey, it's nice to meet you and see everybody else.
You too.
My question, well, maybe not a question, more of a statement, and then maybe that'll open up some of the thoughts. Deb was talking at the beginning about her 90 days relationship course that she's about to do. She did a warrior one summer, and that was a really big turning point for me because a massive part of that, one of the biggest lessons for me out of that, was learning to love myself. And I think that's got to be a key thing in relationships, is that I think it's very difficult to love somebody else if you don't love yourself first. So that was one of the biggest things I got last year when I did one of her 90 days. So that's my starter for 10, if that gets the ball rolling again. Nice. And it looks like Deb's back.
Thank you. It looks like she is back. I want to just, on that note, I've always heard that, about you have to love yourself first. And I never understood it because I knew I didn't know what love was, like real love. I did have an inkling of that for years. Even, I was been married over 30 years at the time. It's 33 now. And I always felt like I didn't know what love was. And I always heard, well, you have to love yourself first. But I thought I did love myself because I have this big ego where I always, I'm not one of those people who beat themselves up. I think I'm great, which is good and bad. But I didn't realize that there was a bad aspect of that too, because it put me above other people. And so I realize I see that more now. So I think it's a different kind of love. That's why I didn't get it. And I still don't quite see it completely because I still have that ego. But maybe Debra can enlighten us a little bit more on her feelings.
Well, I will try and join back in. Thanks, Beck. I don't know what you said, but I'm sure it was all good. I think for me personally, getting into being in a very, very unhealthy relationship for a long time, it definitely felt to me like there was a huge element of
Oh, crap.
I think the way that I would put one, I didn't really like particularly. Can you still hear me?
It went out for a second there.
Oh.
Maybe try without your video on.
Okay, can I do that, or do you have to hang on?
I think you can turn it off. Let me see.
I don't think I can, so I think I've given you all my privileges.
All right, I'm going to stop your video just to see.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so we just see a picture now, but go ahead and
that's okay. Yeah,
see if that's better.
Yeah, see if that makes the internet better. That's cool. Okay, so yeah, I definitely would have described it to myself as if I didn't love myself. It definitely felt as if yeah, it definitely felt like a key piece was missing. But I can also see very much the way that I talk about it, and like when we did the Warrior's Journey, and I know when I work with people, which I do quite a lot around relationships, when I work with people, I talk about it as a place of balance, because it looks a little bit like you can swing kind of from one end of this pendulum to the other. You know, you can either sort of love yourself too much, or you cannot love yourself, or then you can be in this place of balance in the middle. And it's like you have got the balance between knowing that you are absolutely everything at the same time as being absolutely nothing. And you've sort of got these two things into a balance, where it felt like, I think when I was really out of sync with my relationships, it felt like I'd almost got the two things the wrong way around. It felt like I treated myself as if I was nothing, and then I would swing to being everything but somehow having those two things in balance and in the right measure and the right proportion, and understanding when to show up as nothing and when to show up as love and know you are everything. And it's kind of, I know when Sid talked about it, it is a knowing beyond our mind. It's something that we can, when we put words on it, we can get confused and mixed up by the words, because it is definitely something that we're pointing to, and it is something that you can get a feel for, and something that you can understand as you move into this place of feeling a balance between being both everything and nothing. It is a peaceful, beautiful, calm, it is definitely, it's an experience beyond the mind that there are not words to put onto it. And yet when you're in the wrong place, when it's just, it is definitely the difference between knowing and seeing those two. And it is something that words cannot describe it. But if we point somebody there and they fall into that place and feel it, they know that they've reached that place. You know that you've got that balance, and you can see it in I watched Beck, I only heard a little bit of her description then at the end of that, but I literally watched Beck blossom from being, she turned up on my doorstep one day lost, and I don't know, and I literally just watched her blossom, and I watched her find that place of balance for herself. I watched her find that place. And people can say they found it or say they haven't found it. And to me, it plays out in what we do in life day to day. I hear a lot of people talking about the principle and talk about getting it and understanding it and things like this. And what always comes to me is if people are saying to you, oh yeah, I get this, but my life hasn't changed, you're kind of like, well, then you've literally got some kind of intellectual understanding of something. And if people say, oh, I don't know whether I've got it, but you watch them in their life, and it plays out in your life if you have heard something, because it is beyond the words. It is not a mind. It is not something the human mind will ever fully comprehend. It is something deeper and more beautiful than that. And all we can do is point towards that and talk about that and get in a conversation about that. And at some point, maybe just one of the words, a sentence, somebody will just be in the right place to have that experience, and snap, it just changes.
Yeah. Yep. It's so true. I mean, I have touched that space a couple of times, for, you know, for extended period, let's say, like maybe like a whole day. So which was awesome, because then I knew what it was that others were talking about. To me, I just called it it was a space of unconditional love, and it's what I had been seeking, you know, wondering what love is, because I knew I didn't know what love was, because what I see that I thought love was before, and what looks to me, what a lot of people think love is codependence, not love. But it's like,
Yeah.
I love you because I think you make me feel good, or I love you because you can do this for me, and then the other person loves you back because you can do this for them, and it works, and it's you know, that was my relationship with my husband. Not nothing bad about it. We did love each other, and we do love each other, but I can see now, looking back, the things, you know, that we fit together good. I filled his needs, he filled mine, and it was really good. But it's not the same as when I saw what real unconditional love was, that you know, that it doesn't matter what they do for you, what you think they can do for you, because first of all, nobody can make you happy, because for me, I saw that happiness was already inside of me, always inside of me, not something that someone else can give me. And so it doesn't, needing other people, you know, you're just able to just enjoy other people's company instead. But it's like, it's like you say, it's that space. Now, do I live in that feeling all the time? I wish. It's like you know, I've touched it a couple of times, but the interesting thing is, the times when I saw it were two different times where I was actually mad. You know, let's say my husband said something or did something, we had an argument, whatever it was, I was really pissed, and then all of a sudden fell into that space, and it's like kind of weird. It's like, I don't want to have to get into the you know, be mad first to have to get into that. But it's weird that those were the two times that I dropped into it. Have you found similar, Debra?
It definitely shows up for me. Some, you know, I know sometimes when I've kind of, I had been working away for a weekend one time, and I came home and I'd expected that my partner was going to do some things while I was away, and I kind of walked in and it was quite obvious very quickly that these things hadn't been done. And I definitely, in that moment, I dropped into a space. I wanted to be angry with him, and then I dropped into a space of, actually, it really doesn't matter what he did or didn't do while I was away or anything. But I do find the more that I look in this direction, the more that I find that I can just be in that space. That space seems to show up for me more and more and more in my relationship. You know, it just shows up I wake up in the morning and I can just feel amazing, just feel that space. It seems to be more available and more there for me. The more I understand, and the more that I just continue. I suppose that for me, I love the whole step. I think the more that I look in this direction, the more often that space is available to me. Has my internet gone again? Can you still hear me?
We can hear you now. There was just a blip.
I don't know whether my internet...
I think you're stuck again. But I'll just comment on that for a minute. like I said, for me, I touched that space a couple times very deeply, but I do think if I think about it, that I probably am closer to that space, let's say, at different times, more of the time than I don't know, maybe not more of the time than not, but I'm probably in that space more than I realize, I guess, is what I might say, as opposed to being, oh, I see Debra just left, so she'll be back in a minute, but for everybody else. So yeah, I mean, while I've touched that space very deeply, where all I can see is unconditional love. That's not my normal place of living, unfortunately. But the beauty of it is, if you've had any taste of it, then you start to know what it is, and that then you know what's possible, like what's on the table. You know what life could be like, and you can love anybody like Jeff does. He's giving me the thumbs up. You can't. Let me unmute him. So I'm just talking a bit about what you were talking about, Debra. If you can still hear us, just saying that while I don't live in, I've only seen that space deeply a couple of times. I probably, if I'm honest with myself, I do live in that space, or at least closer to it, on a regular basis as well. And I can definitely see it. People don't upset me as much. I know that they're just, feeling their thinking, and and I know it has nothing to do with me so much more. I think that's for me such a key to relationships. That's probably going to be my next blog post. I think that, when people are going crazy or whatever, and you think it's about you, it's really not. It can't be about you. It's only about them and their own reactions.
Yeah, it's huge when you start to see that actually it's their stuff, and it's just like, I know about a month ago, we did a zip wire. A group of us went and we stepped completely out of my anything I would normally do. We did this zip wire. And one of the questions during this, for me, it was very much about understanding that I can still do things no matter what's going on in my mind. Whatever my thinking is giving me, I can still do things I want to do. And it was very much like I was doing this zip wire, and one of the questions that I kept asking myself was, am I all right even here? And this is one of the things, like when other people are around and other people are getting in a thought storm, and other people are doing, and it feels like it's having an effect on me, then it is very much what makes sense to me, what guides me personally. And this is not, I'll go away and do this. This is just something that personally works for me. When I ask myself the question, am I all right even here? That somehow for me seems to take me back inside myself and touch this deeper place in me where I am okay. It somehow makes that connection for me. And it is then, actually, there is always, no matter what my thinking is doing, and no matter what it appears other people are doing, there's always this place, this deeper place within me that is available for me to just go to at will almost. And I think we've just recently been away on holiday, and when I was coming back, we were driving back. We drove back through the night. We landed in Luton at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we drove back to Devon. So we drove right through the night, and it was very, very dark. And while we were driving back, there was a huge storm going on, and I was just watching this storm, and it was really dark, and there was thunder and lightning, and it was, all this was going on. And I just had a moment of realization that although it was at night, so it was dark and there was a huge storm, but I kind of suddenly thought, well, the sun is still there somewhere, because if the sun had left our solar system, we wouldn't still be alive. We are kind of, our planet and the whole way this works, we are dependent on the sun. If the sun left this solar system for whatever reason, we would be here. And the same thing occurred to me with this deeper part of us, this part of us that is always okay. It can't leave because it is fundamentally who we are. And although we can go into dark nights and we can go into storms within ourselves, that part of us cannot be missing, because if it had gone, we wouldn't be here anymore. So if I am still here, it makes sense to me that this part of me that is always okay and that is always connected to, you know, the power behind life, whatever it is you want to call this power, that, you know, this stuff that we are made of, we have always got a connection to it, because if that connection had actually gone, we would no longer be here. So the evidence that we are still here, even if we are in a really bad storm, that's all it can ever possibly be, because that connection has got to still be there.
Yeah, that's, and I think I talked to you last week when we were talking, that insight that I had, that sort of similar insight that I just had last week about consciousness being that, where that's that observer, because I've really paid a lot of attention to my thoughts over the past few years, which I think for me has been the best thing I could do, to see that person, that one paying attention is the observer, and to see the other day that's consciousness, and that is who we are. That's that quiet, still voice. That's the inner guide. That's the translator of what mind, the greater whatever, that mind, the formless, has given us this consciousness. Everybody's got it. It's all the same. We all have this awareness, and that peaceful awareness, and then on top of it we've got thought. that tries to take away the peace, which I just kind of think of, that's just sort of the ego mind, is the thought. That's how I think of it, and it's hilarious, because they're having these, well, the ego is trying to have this duel with the awareness, peaceful consciousness, which won't fight back because it's not a fighter. and so of course that's why the ego wins a lot, because consciousness and peacefulness is just saying, whatever, you can do whatever you want, I don't care. But if you want to listen to me, you know, here's a better idea. And then ego's going, no, don't listen.
It's always trying to prove its point, and always trying to kind of trick you into looking in that direction, seeing that, and getting, you know, and we do. Sometimes it can be really, really compelling, can't it? And we get really caught up, and it's really a nice drama, and we can get into it. But like you say, there's always just this peacefulness that has nothing to prove, that has nothing to defend, that has nothing, because it just is. And very much as we kind of, I think, a massive thing about relationships as well is stepping into that place and remembering we don't have anything there is nothing to defend. And, you know, the first, I remember reading a Byron Katie thing where she said, you know, the first act of war is defense. And that really kind of hit home with me. And it literally, like, the ego is at war with itself, because it is continually defending itself. But there is really no enemy of it, because, like you say, this consciousness, this higher place, whatever it makes sense to you to call, just has nothing to defend, because it just is truth. So there is nothing to defend.
Right. It's truth, it's peace, and it's love. Like, it's so funny though, like, why wouldn't you think we'd want to, and we do want to be in that place, but it's so weird that it's like, oh, it's so hard to get there, or it's seemingly so hard to get there for the average person, and yet it's so hilarious, because that's what we're all striving for, this thing that's inside of us. It is us, it's everybody, and it's what we want the most, and yet we prefer to listen to cuckoo head in the background that makes no sense and just wants to attack and defend. Okay. Yeah. And we wonder why there's so much battles in the world. Right?
And it is, I mean, that is really, I suppose, you know, I know during the time we were on holiday, one of the things that we got talking about a little bit was the cosmic joke. And that really is the cosmic joke, isn't it? That actually what we want is just lying there, sitting there, peacefully just saying, yeah, here I am, I'm yours, you can have me whenever you want, here is peace, here is, your okayness, here is your well-being, I'm here, and you can't, and then we get caught up in this, great big, whatever it is, this ego that's playing out, and our conditioning and our belief systems, whatever you want to call them, all this stuff that's created with our thoughts, we just get mesmerized and caught up in it. And what every one of us actually wants on a deeper level is this peace that is just sitting there saying, yep, whenever you're ready, here I am.
When you were saying that, I was picturing this peace awareness thing, laying on the beach with an umbrella and a margarita, saying, whenever you want, we're here, we're waiting for you. Come join the peace party on the beach in Hawaii.
And it really can be, actually, sometimes when somebody is in front of you and they are really struggling to get to it, it can sometimes be almost quite difficult not to laugh, not from a nasty place, but from it is so clear that it is within this person. And I think, looking in this direction and learning to sort of listen and learn to hear, it is, I know when I've heard Michael Neal talk about it, one of the times when he sort of said, it's as if someone is coming to you and saying, well, everybody else has got a nose, why haven't I got a nose? And it's quite difficult not to actually laugh when you're looking at this person with a nose as plain as anything in front of you. And it is, the cosmic joke is we're getting caught up in our thinking, we're getting caught up in this other place in us that is busy and striving and fighting and all these things, and yet this piece is everybody's. It is available. It's always what you were. It's always been there. It can never go anywhere. And although it can sometimes be, as I said, sometimes it can be really, really tragic when we see people sat in front, and you can really, you can feel their pain and you can feel that they want to connect with this thing. But other times it is, quite a funny cosmic joke that, yeah, it's yours, it's there. It's sat there under its umbrella, sipping its margarita, waiting.
Yeah, and instead of going over there where it's sitting, waiting, we go to other people. We go to other things, we go to other stuff, and we get mad at them when they don't make us happy. And they do something that we say, that's not what a friend would do, because that's their own rule, that friends don't do that. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was all mad at another friend because she didn't act the way she would have acted in a certain situation. And I said, well, do you love this friend or not? And she said, yes, of course I love her. And I said, well, it doesn't sound like you love her, because why you're expecting her to give you something back. That's not love. Love doesn't need anything back. That's not real love. That's you expecting her to make you happy, and she didn't, and so now you don't love her anymore. And she got it when I said it, and I haven't talked to her since then. But that's what we do. We expect others to not only make us happy, but in a way that we think they have to do it, because we make up rules and then wonder why the rest of the world doesn't follow them.
I think it is huge when you realize that other people have, I think a lot of the time we watch other people doing things and we're very quick to criticize and say, I would never do that. I would never. And we expect people to act towards us the way we think we would act towards them in that situation. And not only are we rubbish at knowing how we would act in those situations, but we totally made up how this other person should be under these circumstances, told ourselves this whole story, and then we completely blind ourselves to that. And I actually have similar conversations with people. One of the things that I ask is, do you show unconditional love towards people? And everybody, oh yes, I do. And then you say, but then in conversations you continue to hear people, well, they didn't even say thank you. They couldn't even bother to say thank you. Oh, right, okay. So you expected a thank you. So there were conditions then. Oh, well, thank you isn't a condition. Everybody would say thank you, wouldn't they? And we've kind of we are tricked by our own minds into, you know, we think we unconditionally love when actually, you know, that isn't what's going on a lot of the time. And going back to something very early on in this conversation, it's really, really interesting to bring those things back to you. When we see this going on with other people, I don't know whether it was one of your blogs that I actually read or not. It was something during this week that I read, and it's like when we get into those places of judging and seeing these things with other people, if we say, oh, you know, this person did this, just add the sentence, just like me, on the end of it. And it kind of wasn't yours. Oh, and it's interesting, you know, we kind of see like this, you know, it's easy to see where other people don't unconditionally love, and then you say, well, she's not unconditionally loving, just like me. And it reminds you of the places where you are also doing those things, because every one of us is, to some degree or other, you know, we're all playing this same game. It's become ultimately clear to me that nobody is better and nobody is worse than me. You know, we are all kind of on a par. We're all up against the same thing, and we're all playing this game. And sometimes, you know, I see something, my consciousness level goes somewhere, and I see something, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I unconditionally love, and sometimes I don't. It's just kind of really interesting when we kind of watch. Has my internet gone again?
It was blipping a little, but
can you still hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear us?
I'm not sure if you can still hear me or not.
No, you're stuck again now. I'm gonna just comment on that a little bit. What you were talking about, you know, the seeing it sometimes and seeing it not. It's so common. It's, you know, for yourselves, it's so much easier to see in others and stuff. And one thing I've noticed that I did, and I guess I probably do it more than I realized, was sort of you typecasting people, where you I'm just unmuting you again. It won't unmute you. Anyway, I'm going to go on. Hopefully everyone else can hear me. Where you meet a person, let's say, and there's certain traits that they have that reminds you of somebody you knew in the past. And so you typecast and be like, oh, well, that's that type. That's the kind of person who would steal someone's husband, or that's the type of person who would do whatever. And I saw this really clearly because a friend of mine had this situation where someone thought she was some kind of home wrecker, and this person is completely the opposite of a home wrecker. But this other woman had this image of her from who knows what, thought she was some kind of a home wrecker, and then basically started attacking her because of it. And I realized that I've done the same thing with people just based on a little bit of knowledge about them and thinking that they're a certain type. And that really helped me when I saw that from what this other person was doing. It helped me see that I was doing it with people, and it made me take another look at people, because we have judgments. We're constantly making judgments about people, and we fill in the blanks. We don't know what anyone's like. Everybody is different, and but our brains, like, and our egos have to fill in the blanks somehow and make them a specific type. Now it looks like Debra's missing again altogether here. What time is it? We have about 10 minutes. Let's see if she comes back. Does anyone have any other comments or questions, at least for me, while we're sitting here? You can just raise your hands. You could unmute yourself as well. Oh, here comes Debra. Debra?
Hello.
You just missed my brilliant chat, but I'm not gonna, I won't
I'll have to listen to the recording.
Yeah, you'll have to watch the recording.
I think it's a good job you're recording this, because my internet is really playing up tonight.
Looks like mine's still working, the recording, so that's good. you know, we've only got about 10 minutes left anyway, and we've really, I think, covered a ton of ground here in this short time when yours has been working.
Yeah, I bet I've missed all the best bits.
One thing I'm gonna just repeat it a little bit because I'm curious if you have any thoughts. I was just talking about how I won't say the whole thing, but how we sort of typecast people. I found myself, you know, you hear, you meet somebody, let's say, and they remind you of somebody else you may have known. They have certain traits, and then so you say, oh, that kind of person is like this, and say it's negative that you don't like. You just, like, for me, I realized I was doing this recently, and it's just interesting how I noticed that, you know, my ego or whatever fills in the blanks, you know, oh, they're like this, and this, so they're just like that person I knew 15 years ago or whatever, and then I don't want to be friends with them or something. And when I realized I was doing that, I thought, oh my God, that's so judgmental. And it enabled me to be able to give them another chance and see them differently. And I have been actually able to do that in this particular case. I don't know if you've experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
You may not be as judgmental as I am.
Oh, no. I can be really judgmental. No, I'm good at being, I can do judgmental, yes, definitely.
With the best of them.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, definitely it was huge for me when I kind of, and I think we do it both to ourselves and to other people. We put ourselves in a category and say, you know, I'm this person, I'm like this, I do this, you know, and I still catch myself doing it with myself. You know, the beginning of this meeting, I said, oh, technology's not my thing. You know, we definitely put ourselves into boxes and say, this is what we're like. And I think it's brilliant as we start to release both other people and ourselves from these prisons, these, you know, make-believe boxes that we've made up for them, that if they've got this trait, then they definitely have this, and this. And the other thing is, if they've once done something, we categorize them as that thing. You know, we kind of, you know, if somebody has, been lazy once, then they are a lazy person, and that's it, they are just lazy. Whereas what I see more and more is every single human being can both be lazy and not be lazy. Every single human can both, you know, we can be everything, and we've all got all things available to us. We can be horrible, we can be nice, we can be kind, we can be unkind. And I think all of us can be all things. And so, it's not good to put somebody in a box and label the box.
And actually, I think that right there, both our image of ourselves and our image of somebody else, especially people we've known a long time, even more so than the ones we just meet, that's the crux of relationships and relationship problems, because we believe we are a certain way, and we believe other people or another person is a certain way. We have that image of them that isn't them, but it's just made up in our head. And that's the key to changing your relationship. That's what I found for myself with close relationships, was realizing that image of them and myself as well, but it's even more so with them, that's just made up, and maybe they're not like that, or maybe they were at one time but they're not anymore, or maybe they never were. But seeing close people to you in a different light like that causes you to react differently to them, and the relationship changes without them having to do a damn thing, because we're suddenly realizing they're not who we thought they were.
Yeah, very, very much so. It does. Yeah, it opens. And if you react differently to a person, it breaks a cycle, doesn't it? Of, you know, they say something, then you're assuming they are being this person that you've labeled them, so you act in that way. And sometimes you hear things that, you know, I know from my perspective, sometimes I've said something and I've noticed that somebody I've known for a long time has reacted to me as if I am doing something that hadn't even entered my head. I wasn't being that person. And yet, because they know me as that person and are expecting that, they see that in my behaviour. And I know I must do that as well. So actually kind of freeing yourself from that breaks a cycle and gives, you know, brings a freshness and a newness to any relationship. You know, we can then, we can re-get to know this person. We can be a different person. It breaks this cycle of you being this, me being this, you being this, me being this, you being this, me being this. And we can just, and it's like having a whole new relationship and seeing a whole new side to somebody, which keeps it really fresh and exciting. And it's really brilliant to just actually see that nobody is fixed. None of us. Nobody is just one thing and fixed. It's huge, and it's really good to see that.
I think, to me, that's the key. That's the key to changing relationships without the other person even knowing, because you always want to change the other person, and you don't have to, because they change in your head, and then you change differently to them, and then they actually may start to change in real life just because you're acting differently towards them. It's that right there is the key to this whole webinar, I think, and the key to relationships. It takes one to tango,
Yes.
one person to change. And,
yeah, I think
that's the miracle.
Yeah, that is the miracle, because I think most people believe that within any relationships are about more than one person. So, and at the beginning of this webinar, when you kind of said, oh, I'm okay, but it's these other people. And I think this is it, it can be very, very difficult sometimes to realize that within a relationship, you are the only one. Bring it back to you, because you are the only one that ever needs to do anything different to have a completely different experience of the relationship. And if you do something different, the relationship, it can't help but be different. It can't. If you become different, the relationship cannot be the same. If you react differently, if you see something different, the relationship cannot be the same.
Yeah.
That is an absolute miracle. And I think, most relationship things are always, it's about two people, you've both got to come along, and then you tell each other about what it is you don't like and all this sort of thing. And you're really on the road to nowhere. Whereas, and I can see from personal experience, the relationship that I am in now has just got better and deeper and more healthy the more I have just seen this for myself more deeply. Not, it's never been about making someone else see it. It's never been, and it's the same, with the relationship with my children and other family members. They've just literally got richer and deeper and nicer and better, just purely through me doing this for my, not saying to anyone else, oh, you have to change, you have to be different. Just me being different has been more than enough. Because
imagine if we came from that place of unconditional love always, if we could live in that space, there'd be no way we could have conflict with anybody, right? Nobody would want to have conflict with us, because we would just be this loving presence. Everyone would want to be around us. I mean, it's really the goal, and your relationships would have to be better. Like nobody would. You just can't fight with the unconditional love lying on the beach with the margarita. Right? No, there is nothing to fight, and this is it. The more we realise that there is nothing to defend, if we don't go into defence, because ultimately the only person we can be at war with is ourselves. And the trick of the illusion, the trick of this, is that our thinking tricks us into believing we are at war with other people. That there are other people who are doing things, there are other people who are annoying us, there are other people who are upsetting us. And if we can see through that illusion and become, like you said, just come from this place more and more and more of the time of unconditional love, then how could there be anything? And interestingly, before this webinar started, I actually had a question from somebody. It was a tongue-in-cheek question. They asked to stay anonymous. They just said, oh, could you just say, if you're talking about relationships, could you find me a compatible partner? That would be, just brilliant. That's what I want. I'm on my own. I'm a bit lonely. I want a partner. And to me, what you have said literally answers that question beautifully, because I think if you
move into a place of showing up as much of the time as possible as unconditional love. Let me shut the door because it's really loud. If you show up as unconditional love, then it just looks like everybody is an amazing and beautiful compatible partner, because there is nobody in life who you are not in an amazing relationship with. So
right, and that's theoretically what it could be. It's hard to kind of grasp it, but you're right. I mean, you could theoretically, anyone could be a good partner for you, but yeah, that's really hard to kind of. It makes sense. Logically, it does make sense. But it's hard not to just be judged, say, no, yeah. I don't. That guy is kind of icky. Right?
Yeah. There's always the people. Okay, how unconditional is your love? Could you be in love with this person?
It's a good test.
The test of unconditional love.
This one or this one?
Daddy or chips? Yeah, it is very much. Yeah, and I think, the more that it's just, I suppose, I love being in the relationship with the person I'm in a relationship with, so, I'm not interested. But it is ultimately, the more that we do show up as that, and the more that we live from that place, the more people we can have a beautiful relationship with. Whether, difficult people at work that appeared before, anything, it definitely, because theoretically and actually, if we did get into that place of living all the time from unconditional love, that would be where we would get to. And, like you, I kind of think, yeah, I don't think I would, hey, I'm going to keep working towards it, but it's a fun thing to kind of.
It is. And you can also take it further from there, because if we could do that, say to you and me, we would be like that. And then it branches out, other people be like that, and then you can see where complete world peace could theoretically happen. Again, yeah.
Definitely.
But it's so hard to transcend that ego completely to be in 100% of the time. Because even Sid Banks and you hear the stories and all the 3P teachers. I mean, they have their moments as well. It's just not. Yeah. We're still humans.
Yeah, we're still going to have this human element, aren't we? But I can definitely see a massive difference for me in, how much I show up in that space more than in that space. And I just think I don't think it would take, everybody just showing up just a little bit more in that space would make a massive difference. It would
just for in our own little circles.
Yeah, it would just be huge.
Yeah, it's less expectations on others, our own weird expectations, and just acceptance.
Yeah,
seeing that we're all good,
and taking responsibility for ourselves. I mean, ultimately, that's it, isn't it? If it comes down to, I am responsible for how I feel. You're not responsible for how I feel. I am responsible for how I feel.
Yeah.
And I think, we definitely have, the society definitely, takes us towards somebody else is responsible. It's somebody else's fault. Somebody else. We live very much in a society that is, if you don't feel right, blame someone else. There's a lot of that about, isn't there? We are very much that kind of a society. So actually to bring that back, and it is hugely empowering when you can bring that back to yourself and realize that actually it's within your grasp to feel any way you want to feel. So
yep. And with that, I think we've gone about an hour with give or take with the
with all the interruptions, with all the amazing internet.
Overall it was fine. It wasn't too bad there. We filled in the blanks.
I shall just have to listen to the recording for all the best bits that I missed every time the internet went down.
It was great though. It was great talking to you again, and we'll look for the information about your program and stuff that's coming up And,
Yeah.
I will get this recording up and send you a link, and we'll put it up on the thing. But I'll probably do that now. It'll take me 10 minutes. We'll get it up and running.
Brilliant. It's probably a good job you're doing it, because it might take me longer than 10 minutes. I'm trying to lock myself into that box of not being, any good with technology, but
it's easy. But anyway, all right. So I'm going to just unmute everyone if you'd like to just say goodbye and stuff.
Yeah.
You're all unmuted.
I love you.
I love you too.
Would you? Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you all for coming and listening.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Bye.
All right. I'm going to end the recording.